The exhibition, Pablo Picasso, Structures of Invention, The Unity of a Life's Work, is an exhibition that covers the entire life and work of Picasso from the late 19th century up to his death in the early 1970s. It covers it covering almost every medium that he used, paintings, sculpture, ceramics, the prints and drawings that are so important for his work. But we hope not only that it covers his work, but that it presents a new viewpoint about the development of his art. A viewpoint that we hope will be more engaging for the public to draw us into his own creative process. As a result, we present the work in a way that is different than it traditionally has been. Normally, the great diversity of Picasso's work is divided into different segments. It may be a segment of style, it may be a segment of his life, where he lived, with whom he lived, for example, but it does not suggest a concept of unity. It does not suggest the reality of the way Picasso lived and the way that he worked. And our theme is one of retrospection and invention, because he is both looking back through the history of his own art and moving forward into new ideas that he is developing. It's a process of shifting back and forth rather than simply moving forward. He's not an artist who rejected the past but found ways to recreate it. And as a result of that, I think we have quite a different viewpoint, and one that is engaging for viewers because we believe that it opens up the possibility of understanding better the way in which he worked. One of the very important things for everyone to understand is that the work that we've shown in this exhibition was entirely property of Picasso. He not only made the work, he kept it all of his life. And so when we talk about the idea of Picasso referring to an earlier work in creating a later work, we have to understand that those early works that we have in the exhibition were ones that he chose to keep, that he lived with. And so that he could literally go back and look at a painting made many decades earlier when he's thinking about an idea in it that he could transform in a much later work. So this was his property, these were his inspirations, and as a result, I think it's very legitimate to present these combinations. We begin with a wide range the first gallery, which shows a painting of his sister made in 1898 of her as a child holding a doll on her lap, and we compare that to a painting of 1971 of a woman holding a child on her lap. So the similarity of subject is there, the continuity across 70 years of his art, but stylistically, of course, there's a great range, which you'll see when you can see the images. It's not only the idea of bringing together these very disparate works, but certain themes that emerge in his art as a result of this. Another one which comes out in that first gallery is the theme not just of differences of style and chronology, but the continuity of his concern with children, the idea of children, the idea of the free imagination of a child. So also in the first gallery, we have a sculpture that he made in 1960 of a young child who seems to be running and tottering across the landscape. It's an image that we hope will be welcoming and engaging rather than simply challenging. In the exhibition, we come back to this at the end of the exhibition in the last gallery, where the subject of the child, the inspiration of the child, for him as a man in his 90s was extremely strong. So it's one of the continuities that moves across the exhibition in many different forms. One of the ways in which we suggest this sense of unity is not to follow the chronology of Picasso's work in a strict way. We do move from the beginning to the end, but within each gallery, say devoted to the 1910s or the 1920s or the 1930s, we have works from other periods, because we want to demonstrate that there are these connections, that there are similarities of style in which Picasso is perhaps drawing from a classical tradition and combining that with a Cubist style or with the ideas of surrealism. All of them become mixed. They become hybrids that he is inventing as he deals with the responses to his times. And he even said himself that it was not legitimate to divide his art into periods, that there was no limitation to the way in which he used an idea. He simply drew on what other ideas were most useful for him in creating the work. We're also very interested in adding ceramics to the exhibition in a prominent way. This is a form of his art, particularly that he took up beginning in 1947 when he moved to the south of France, to the town of Vallauris, and began to work with a pottery factory there to create really some of his most interesting work that is a combination of a practical shape with a fantastic form in many cases. So that it is a different kind of hybrid, and the pottery, the ceramics, is really among the most important of this work. I think the most characteristic of this very synthetic approach to the creating of art that we have within the exhibition. But for viewers, what we particularly hope is that they will be challenged by the combination of works, the changes in chronology, but also as a result of that, they will begin to understand the way in which Picasso put together these different ideas. And one of the most important in the latter part of the exhibition is the idea of process. Specifically, his choice increasingly to leave paintings unfinished in the traditional sense, to allow us to see his own process of working, the method that he would use in creating an image. And as a result of that, we can imagine ourselves standing beside him as he's working, adding one thing or deleting another. So that it's an exhibition that not only demonstrates the unity of his work, but also offers us an opportunity, as much as it's possible, to join into his creative process.